Hey everybody, welcome to Combat Saturday for August 29th, 2020. I'm your host, DM Gallibond. Alright, today on Combat Saturday, we are going to be looking at the light hammer. This is a weapon that has a long history in D&D, and we're going to look at how it has changed from the early days all the way up until 5th edition. So let's go ahead and start, as we always do, by looking at how the light hammer works in 5e. All right. Light hammer is a simple melee weapon. 2 gold, weighs 2 pounds. It can be considered both a light weapon and a thrown weapon. Thrown, it has a range of 20, a long range of 60, and it deals 1d4 bludgeoning damage. Okay, it's a pretty simple, basic weapon there, as it exists in 5e. Okay, it is one of the weapons that goes all the way back to original D&D, but you'll notice that in original D&D there was no such thing as a light hammer or a heavy hammer. There was a war hammer and there was a throwing hammer. Now the war hammer, usually you think of that as something that you can wield either with one hand or two hands. It's a little bit longer haft on it, and it can be used, to knock somebody out of the saddle as well as to, bash somebody over the head in combat. And the throwing hammer was specifically a throwing weapon with the 3 range increments, 10 feet each increment. And the throwing hammer was the one that had the 1d4, and the war hammer had a slightly higher damage output at 1d6. The throwing hammer would cost you 4 gold. The warhammer would set you back 5 gold. And in terms of weight, the throwing hammer was 25 coins or 2.5 pounds, while the warhammer is 5 pounds, so quite a bit heavier than the light hammer is today. Then in AD&D, you went till the hammer was a 1 gold piece, cost you 1 gold piece, and in terms of its other stats, it was not really considered that much of a throwing weapon. It weighed 5 pounds, would deal 1d4 plus 1 to small or medium creatures, and 1d4 to large creatures. It's about 1.5 feet long, requires 2 feet to use it. Speed factor of 4, and then you have all these armor class adjustments for the armor class. If you're using it against armor class 2, there's no adjustment. There's a +1 adjustment against armor class 3. No adjustment against armor class 4. A +1 against armor class 5, and then no adjustment. This was a really weird system in AD&D. And where they gave, depending on what the armor class was, some weapons got bonuses to hit a specific armor class, but not other armor classes, and some weapons got a penalty to hit some armor classes, but not others. And it's really kind of strange why they why they did that. That still doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. And in doing that, and I can't remember the reasons that they um, decided to do that. Very, very, very odd. All right. In second edition, basically what you had was you had the Warhammer, and the Warhammer was 2 gold pieces. It cost 2 gold pieces. It weighed 6 pounds. Dealt bludgeoning damage, speed factor of 4, and you're back to the 1d4 plus 1 against small and medium creatures, and 1d4 against large creatures. Third edition, now we finally have the light hammer. 1 gold piece cost, 1d3 versus small creatures, or when wielded by small creatures, 1d4 when wielded by medium creatures. Critical damage times 2. Range increment for throwing it of 20 feet. Weight of 2 pounds. Now, you'll notice that in 5th edition it's considered a simple weapon, but in 3rd edition it's considered a martial weapon, the light hammer. So that's an interesting twist on the evolution, and it's kind of strange where they'll take exactly the same weapon, and through different editions they'll categorize it in different ways. And this is a good example of that, where it's a martial weapon that requires typically specialized training to use it effectively. And also it's limited to certain classes that can use it effectively. All right, and in 4th edition, we have the Warhammer. That's really the hammer or there's a throwing hammer and there's a Warhammer. So the throwing hammer would be the closest equivalent to what the light hammer is. +2 proficiency, 1d6 damage, range increment of 5 squares or 10 squares, so 25 or 50 feet. Costs 5 gold, weighs 2 pounds, and it can be wielded in the offhand, and it's considered a heavy thrown weapon because it has, a large mass at one end. That's what makes it a heavy thrown weapon. All right, and that is the history of the hammer. And also, you'll notice that in 5th edition, it was a heavy thrown. In 4th and 5th edition, it's a light weapon with the thrown property. So again, another difference in the way that the same item is classified from one edition to the next. All right, this has been our look at the light hammer and sort of its evolution through the history of the game. If you like the kind of stuff that we do here on the channel, please subscribe, click on the like button for the videos, share videos with your friends. Go ahead and click the post notification bell. That'll let you know every time we drop a new video on the channel. I've been DM Gallibond. In the description of this video, you'll find about all of my social media platforms and how to follow all the live stream stuff that I do, the actual play games that I run every week. And with that, we will bid everybody a good night. Take care, everyone.